So when you play most modern games, you can turn the game on in the evening for half an hour, play it, and after turning it off, you even forget what you just saw. And then there are other games like The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, open world games that I like to talk about on this channel. And then there is Morrowind, that goes even further and kind of rewards you the more you play the game. And while I definitely didn't expect much from a game from 2002, a game that only takes 1 GB of your storage, but what I got was something way better. So as I mentioned in a couple of videos, the Elder Scrolls franchise was the next series that I was going to review and play on this channel. And firstly, I only wanted to play the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, but after more and more research, I found that Oblivion was also worth playing. And when it came to the Elder Scrolls 3, I didn't really see any negative aspects when it came to the game. And so when I first launched the game, I didn't really know at all what was going to expect me. You had this Lord of the Rings type introduction, and you kind of were stranded on a ship. And what I noticed in the first couple of minutes is how detailed Morrowind is, because the character creator of the game is far more fleshed out than for most modern games. You can pick your name, you can pick your race, your gender, and no, there are not 50 genders in the game. Thanks God the game is as old as it is, and there are only 2 genders to pick from, and you can even pick your star sign. And while the game gives you a small tutorial, it kind of wants you to figure things out on yourself. And usually when I do these reviews, I kind of structure the videos. I have a part in the video where I talk about the story, I have a part where I talk about the open world, the gameplay and stuff like that. But in Morrowind, I think I cannot really structure a video surrounding the game like that, because the game intertwines so well and all of the aspects are kind of portrayed in one. Because I could talk about the story, but is there even a real story? That's the point. You yourself can decide what you're going to play and what you're going to do in the open world. You could spend literally 50 hours in the game without completing one single main quest. Once I was talking with an NPC, thinking nothing of it, and he gave me a quest, and usually in games like these, you have to go somewhere, pick something up, or kill someone else. It led me down to a chain of events that took me around 5 hours to complete. And after that I was literally thinking, okay, was that actually the main story of the game? And after realizing that, most players who play this game, this shallow way, that just want to get through it, wouldn't even have discovered this quest in the first place. And in a lot of sequences, I really felt like Morrowind showed me what's wrong with modern gaming, because the game really wants you to immerse yourself in the world, in the lore, and in the whole background of the game. When it comes to the open world, while it obviously isn't as good looking as modern open worlds, you don't have a huge HUD that shows you a mini-map and the exact steps that you have to take in order to get to your destination and how far off it is. You yourself have to figure out how to get to your destination. And in order to do that, you can use your mini-map that is literally mini. I mean, it's kind of hard to see where you're going only looking at that. What makes more sense and more fun after some time is just to ask NPCs. You have to look at street signs in order to navigate throughout the open world. And if you think about it, in modern games, you don't have that at all. You have your map that literally takes away a part of your screen while navigating through the open world. Most of the time, we don't focus on the open world itself, we only focus on that mini-map in the corner and how to get there. I talked about that in my video where I talked about the immersion and freedom that Morrowind offers, and while playing The Witcher 3, my favorite game to this date, I noticed very early that while walking or riding through the open world, most of the time I didn't focus on the open world itself, I focused on the minimap in the top right hand corner. And playing like that, you don't really feel like you experience the open world like it should be experienced. And in Morrowind, I have to tell you, after one playthrough, I think I already know the open world better than some other games that I've played 2 or 3 times already. Because you literally have to remember what the NPCs say. Sometimes you even have to pick out a pen and paper in order to write down the directions to get to your destination. And I think that that is the proper way to play video games. And that was probably one of the most refreshing aspects that I had while playing the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. because the game doesn't treat you like a little child that has to tell you everything you have to do, that has to show you exactly where to go. You know, it literally says, okay, here's this big open world, you can do whatever you want and figure things out on your own. And also the way that you play as your character in the game is completely different from person to person. Obviously you have your races and your classes that you can pick from, but when you're a thief, your gaming experience is completely different than if you focus on being a magician. And you can also play the game being an absolute angel, killing nobody and just doing good things, but you could also be an absolute berserker and leave every town with nothing but corpses. The game literally doesn't tell you what is right or wrong, you have to decide that yourself. And while the game doesn't tell you what to do, it definitely reacts to your actions. You know, if you do something criminal, or if you steal something or kill another person, the game will literally treat you like a criminal in the game. So it's not like in modern games where you mostly steal things and nobody gives an F. If you steal something, trust me, they will get you. And while sometimes even that system didn't make a lot of sense in my opinion, because one time I was sleeping at a friend of mine in the game, and it was literally seen as a crime. Like the NPC, that was a friend of mine in the first place, started attacking me and kicked me out of the house. So you know, things like these are also seen as a crime. It doesn't really make sense, but I guess at least there is a legal system in the game that doesn't leave all of your actions unpunished, so it actually reacts to what you do. And what I noticed very quickly about the game was how detailed and how thought through the lore and the history of the open world was. Like, you know, every NPC had an interesting story surrounding a topic or surrounding a character. And you know, in the beginning, well, I thought that I would explore the open world in an hour or so, because I mean the game is from 2002, you wouldn't expect such a huge open world like it is, but Morrowind is so huge, it was so unexpected, like the open world didn't end. You know, I was exploring more and more locations, and after some time I was literally shocked on how huge the open world of the game actually was. Obviously, as I said, it isn't detailed or an absolute beauty to see, but it's still quite fascinating to see that such an old game has such a huge open world. One part of the game that pissed me off quite much was the combat of the game, because in the first couple of hours it was literally almost impossible to kill an enemy. You know, you would click on your mouse like a crazy man and you would hit 1 every 5 hits. After you upgrade your stats and your character, that also becomes better, and after some time the combat system becomes bearable. But in the beginning, I'm telling you, sometimes I really wanted to rage quit or just punch through my computer because I just couldn't hit another creature. And when it comes to the soundtrack of the game, I mean, it's a pretty epic main theme, you know, but I was quite disappointed with the lack of depth when it came to the soundtrack, because sometimes I was literally just roaming through the open world and going somewhere where, you know, in most games you have those tunes that play alongside it and are not really full of emotion, because that's not what you feel in that scene. In Morrowind, I was literally walking somewhere and almost all of the time the main theme of the game was playing. And obviously we all know how great the soundtrack of Skyrim is, so to see that Morrowind isn't coming close to Skyrim's soundtrack at all, and even Oblivion's, was quite sad to see. But as I said, the main theme is great, there just pretty much isn't any depth when it comes to the soundtrack. And another fun fact about the game that I read somewhere is that the game has over, listen to this, the game has over 400 quests in it. I mean, think about that. Over 400 quests. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it's literally impossible to play every single one of those. I mean, I guess it would be possible, but you would need 200 or 300 hours to complete every single one. And most of those quests aren't those typical stereotypes where you have to go somewhere, pick something up. You know, they're literally thought through things, and you really see that proper and real humans were behind that created and thought about which stories to tell in those quests. But hands down, the greatest aspect of Morrowind, in my opinion, was the immersion that the game offered. You know, as I said, it didn't take you at your hand. You yourself were left alone and could figure out and do whatever in the world you want to. You know, your story isn't fixed, and it isn't even like in The Witcher or other games where your choices matter. It's literally a completely different experience for me than it would be for you. You know, you obviously have the main storyline, but you could literally spend 100 hours just doing side quests and visiting the whole open world without ever doing one main storyline. And as I'm being honest, you know, younger players especially nowadays, I feel like kind of are turned off when they hear that they should play a game from 2002. And I have to admit that The Elder Scrolls 3 isn't for everyone. If you're the type of guy that literally just wants to start a video game in the evening and play for half an hour, 1 hour to relax, no, the game is not for you. But if you're truly looking for a real adventure where you have to immerse yourself, actually talk to people and learn about the lore and the story of the game and what is happening in the open world, I think this game would be something for you. Also, as I said, it was refreshing to not be treated like a child, but actually be treated like the character would be in the game. And in an industry where most games literally show you one linear path, Morrowind was the first and I think last game that gave me such a sense of freedom. And I think that a lot of modern gamers, you know, would start the game and wait for something to happen, or someone to pop up and start talking to you, or some quest to just shine up in your quest log like it is in modern games. But Morrowind is completely different. Nobody will come, nobody will save you. Like, if I'm being honest, in the beginning of playing the game, I was literally pissed off. I was like, dude, I need help, like what am I supposed to do? And the game kind of screamed in my face and gave me an uppercut and said, dude, you're not a child anymore, play like an actual adult. And you know, the goal and the purpose of those games that I talk about in this channel kind of is to, you know, immerse and lose ourselves in those beautiful open worlds and in those great stories that the games that I talk about have. And I think Morrowind literally is up there when it comes to giving me that immersion. I mean, when starting Morrowind, it kind of felt like I was escaping into this open world. You know, it was kind of like in Narnia, where, you know, Lucy goes through the wardrobe into this fantastical world. It sounds weird, but it kind of was like that with Morrowind. And when we players play a lot of modern game, it kind of feels like we're watching a movie, you know? Like we may be controlling the character, but we don't really play as the character. In Morrowind, we are the main character of the movie, and we choose how the movie is going to turn out. And while, as I said in the beginning, I didn't expect much from the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, but in the end, I got way more than I first expected.